97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Geoff Mosher, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
I love coaching this football team. I love coaching those players in there.
Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And brought to you by PlaySugarHouse.com. Geoff Mosher is here on a Friday. Don't forget the Inside the Birds pregame show. I believe Adam Kaplan says it starts at 5 o'clock tomorrow, Sunday, for the night game. That's Geoff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, Trey Thomas, and Greg Cosell. So check that out, 5 o'clock. And we'll bring Geoff Mosher in right now as we get ready for the Eagles and the Niners. And Mosher, I mean, on the surface, this looks like a mismatch, right? I mean, you look at a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. I know they are banged out. And by the way, the news just came down. DeSean Jackson is out for the game. That's according to Adam Kaplan, who just tweeted it out. So now you're going in with no DeSean Jackson. Depth or not, this seems to be a little bit of a mismatch.
It is, and it just seems like both teams are hurting in areas that may wind up negating the other team's weakness. For example, you're mentioning DeSean Jackson's out. So the Eagles are without their primary deep threat. They're also probably, I'm going to guess, and we don't know yet, but that I don't know what you can expect from Alshon Jeffrey, if he's going to play or not. But the big thing is, normally a defense would say, all right, great, we're good. We're in good shape there. But, the 49ers, I believe, have two of their three cornerbacks out of the game. I mean, Richard Sherman's still out. We'll have to see what happens with Emmanuel Mosley, who's been injured, and their nickel, I think, is Akilo Witherspoon. He's been hurt as well. So it's kind of like the what do they say? Like the immovable object versus the irresistible force there, in that the Eagles don't know who they're going to throw the ball to, and the 49ers aren't quite sure who's going to be able to defend the pass.
Yeah, the injury report just freshly out here. Fletcher Cox did not practice. DeSean Jackson out. Avonte Maddox out. Trevor Williams out. Let's go there, because we all assumed, okay, Trevor Williams was going to be the guy opposite Darius Slay. He is now out for the game. Now what?
Wow. Well, that really, I mean, man, this is just so many layers to this discussion. Why did the Eagles even go into the year that thin at corner? I mean, I get that Craig Davis was their backup corner.
Craig James.
He's hurt.
That's twice.
Craig James. I keep saying that. Jeez. Yeah, Craig James. And him hurt. Now Trevor Williams is the guy who's hurt. Look, I don't know. They weren't very, obviously forthcoming with their plans. But I have a hard time thinking that you've got Jalen Mills there, and he's played a lot of cornerback, and you're going to go ahead and put, either Nickel Roby-Coleman or Cravon LeBlanc, guys who are really suited for the slot. You're going to put them on the outside instead of Jalen Mills. I have a hard time thinking that. But then again, I don't know how they used Jalen Mills in practice this week. If they used him as a safety, they're not just going to move him to corner just for, the night before or a couple of days before. That's something you would have wanted him to practice with. But it is something in their back pocket. And then you have to, if that happens, then you're a little bit, inexperienced at safety. You've got Rodney, obviously, but then that second safety position, because does Rudy Ford play a little bit, because he was finally a full participant in practice? Does Epps get in there? I mean, Epps is really more familiar with the defense than Ford. So does Epps play a bigger role? Epps has been I would say, played decently at times when he's been in, but he's certainly not someone I think you want playing like a 70-80% of the snaps. Is Kevon Wallace ready to come off and make some kind of impact on the team? That'll be the questions going into this game.
What do you make of, I'm not suggesting that, well, maybe I am, that they made a mistake with Rasul Douglas, but did they just not have him in the right system? Apparently he's played very well in Carolina. So what's the message there? Did they not know what to do with this guy? Did they get it wrong? Was he in the wrong system? I mean, are they not playing the right system for the talent that they have?
Right. I think we need a bigger sample size. I mean, it is a little bit surprising to see how well he's been playing. But one thing that does not surprise me, and we talk a lot about how scheme needs to match personnel. And I'm pretty sure I said this a couple of times when we were on all last year, that I felt like Rasul Douglas was more suited for a Tampa 2 or a cover 2 style defense that plays way off the wide receiver, and you get that double safety help instead of just one safety deep the way Jim had to play, or Jim does play. Because when they had Rasul Douglas out there, and at times Darby would hurt, and they would have a different corner out there as well. Then you've got your deep safety only protecting one, because he's only one person. He can only slide to one side, and that would leave somebody's side wide open and be the island. And Rasul Douglas is not the type of corner. He doesn't run well enough to be put on an island, but that's what happens in a cover 1/cover 3 style of defense that you play. So it's not surprising me that Rasul Douglas would play better in a more in a cover 2 type scheme. It does surprise me that he's graded as one of the top 10 corners in football right now, and that, we'll have to see how that if that holds for the rest of the year.
When the Eagles played the Rams, they were fooled by misdirection, jet sweeps, and the defense got torched. Jim Schwartz put the blame on him to the media. Now they're playing a team that has a very similar style of offense with the jet sweeps, the mixed directions and all. What type of change can you see Schwartz making from that game to this one, knowing that, he's stubborn normally about his defensive scheme?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, they don't run carbon copies offensively. You're right. But there are a lot of similarities in what you're talking about with misdirection, play action. Specifically, they do a great job of moving their offensive linemen around and, giving the defense one look, and the play winds up being a different type of play than it looks. So I don't know what Jim can do other than not let the quarterback get comfortable. In this case, I'm guessing it's going to be Nick Mullins. And, we talk about blitzing. It doesn't have to be a lot more blitzing. It could just simply be bringing an extra defender down to play that play action. So you even up the numbers a little bit, 5 offensive linemen versus 4 defensive linemen. You get to do that double team on the inside, and you can roll a quarterback out either way and have him kind of unprotected. But if there's an extra person down there kind of guarding against that, or even spying against that, then that's a way that you can try to combat that. Of course, that takes an extra defender away from coverage, though, and then you have just the issue of who's going to cover George Kittle then when you're in that when you're executing that style of defense.
And that's the kind of guy that you would have seen a lot of Malcolm Jenkins on had he been here, right? I mean, so you say, do you go with Mills? Do you try to go with a linebacker? I think that's a disaster of a matchup. But the jet sweep is another thing, the misdirection. I feel like Kyle Shanahan must have watched that tape with the Rams game and said, I could do a lot of that stuff against this team.
Yeah, I guess the only difference is that for Kyle Shanahan is that he probably would love to be doing that with Raheem Mostert and with Deebo Samuel. And, I think Raheem is not going to play, and Deebo may play a little bit. Now he's got Ayuk that he did at the first-round pick that he was able to put in some creative situations last week against the Giants. He's got Kendrick Bourne, who's made some decent catches, but he's a little bit limited right now. I think Kittle is going to have to be his bell cow. You're right that Malcolm was the type of guy who could match up against it. And then going back to what we said at cornerback, Jalen Mills was moved to safety for reasons like this, to kind of come in the box, to provide the coverage that he can do against tight ends or backs coming out of the backfield. But if you have to play him at outside corner, then you're not really able to get him matched up against Kittle. So that's actually me kind of making an argument for why you would leave Mills in his position and try to take your chances with whoever on the outside. I guess that would be Trayvon LeBlanc, because right now they're hurting a little bit in San Francisco on the outside without having a fully healthy Deebo. And I think they're down another wide receiver as well. But their wide receivers really, aren't their bread and butter. Ayuk had a nice game, but he's a rookie. There's Bourne. Dante Pettis is a guy who's kind of sunk down their depth chart a little bit too.
By the way, Jackson is out. Alshon Jeffrey is also out, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside is doubtful.
Ooh,
that is from the official injury report that just came out. So no Jackson, no Jeffrey, and Arcega-Whiteside is doubtful. So it looks like you're going to see Hightower, Ward, Deontay Burnett, I don't know, maybe Quez Watkins. Is he even healthy enough to go? Well, I guess we'll have to wait till Sunday to find that out.
Yeah, I think that's perfect with something I got here for you, Mo. So with Shanahan, you talk about the lack of weapons offensively that have been banged up, running backs and Kittle's coming back and all that. But we know regardless of who's out there, Kyle Shanahan is going to have plays that will have a lot of movement and probably confuse the Eagles' defense. Based off of his scheme, it'll open up individuals. We know Wentz has been playing bad, but can Doug Pederson, with these lack of weapons and players, can he do a better job with the scheme to maybe allow some of these practice squad players to get better separation, at least be open in certain areas?
Oh, we must have just lost Moshe. He just vanished.
Maybe the answer is no.
Maybe he also is on the out list.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe Doug Pederson can't actually find a way to get these guys open. That's unfortunate.
So real quick, while we're trying to get Moshe back on the line, this is the official injury report for Sunday's game. Out is Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Avonte Maddox, and Trevor Williams. Now, Trevor Williams, people might be like, I don't even know who the heck that guy was. Well, he was going to start for Avonte Maddox. Now, unfortunately, Maddox is out, and now Williams is out, and Moshe brings up a good point. You go back to Mills and play him at corner? This is where not having Will Parks, I think, really hurts you.
Well, your alternative would be Kayvon Wallace. Would you be interested in having him play safety?
Well, I think Rudy Ford is available to play this week.
He's more of like a special teamers guy. Not that so is Wallace right now as well. I'm just interested. They have both, they can go down both roads. I would say Rudy Ford has more experience, so or Epps. Would they go down the road of Epps?
They could. I mean, that's what I think Mosher brings up a great point. Where has Mills been practicing all week? Has he taken any reps at corner? Are you going to say after not playing corner since last year, hey, we're going to need you to slide over to play cornerback all of a sudden after you've played safety for 3 games?
I don't know. That's super tough. I think both of us we were not extremely high, but we thought that Jalen Mills would be able to provide us more in that safety position than he has been. It's been pretty damn underwhelming.
I was definitely willing because I didn't love him at corner.
Yeah, me neither.
So I was willing to say, all right, I don't want to see him play corner again.
Well, because if we get beat over the top, you would think that with not having to worry about the double moves, this could be a position that could help him.
And I think we forget, too. I don't think people forget. I think people do know. The guy was a 7th-round pick. He's just an okay guy. Like, he's a competitor. He's out there. But he's a 7th-round player for a reason. I mean, he's not great at anything he does. He's just an average guy. Now, today at practice did not participate is Fletcher Cox, Deshaun Jackson, Avonte, Trevor Williams. But Fletcher is not injury-related. Limited was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Alshon Jeffrey, Lane Johnson, Jason Peters. All those guys will play except, Peters and Johnson are supposed to play. And then full participants were Jamon Brown, Jack Driscoll, John Hightower, who were all sick, and then Kelsey, Miles Sanders, Rudy Ford. I think we got Jeff back here. All right, you want to re-ask the question?
Yeah, so I was just saying, like, when you think of all these injuries for San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan, regardless of who's playing quarterback, you know that he's going to scheme open these players. And I just think with the Eagles, while Carson Wentz has been playing awful, and we understand that, can Doug, with this limited amount of weapons, can he do a better job at scheming some of these guys open as well, like we know that Kyle Shanahan is going to, regardless of who's out there?
I think it's a great question. I think he can. Rich Scangarello was brought into this team, this coaching staff, because he was a Kyle Shanahan disciple, and he was supposed to bring those style of concepts to this offense. I can tell you, and I think we talked about it on Wednesday, I saw some of that in the run game in the first quarter and a little bit in the second quarter against the Bengals, but then it kind of just disappeared and reverted back to Doug's normal running game style. So I was wondering if that was just something that they build into the first 15 scripted plays and then kind of forget about. I don't know the dynamics going on there, but I have thought lately that I used to think Doug was a really good play caller and a good play designer as well. And I think that in 2017 and even 18, you saw, plays that would work and guys would get hurt and other guys would step in and be able to produce. But I'm starting to wonder as I watch more games, over the years and see the same type of schemes from week to week, if Doug is kind of walking down the same path that Mike McCarthy did when he was the Green Bay Packers head coach, where you had that early success, you won the Super Bowl, your team got hot, right? But then you were pretty good for the next 3 years, but then you just never got back to where you were, and then all of a sudden people are saying you're stale, that your offense has been figured out, and that you didn't adjust, and then you're out the door. So, Doug's really – it's on him here, as you're mentioning, Hunter, to really try to figure this out. It doesn't – I mean, look, he's got to win games. That's the end result. I think at this point, we just want to see the offense look functional and smooth and to see some of these plays work again.
Yeah, but it doesn't help that you don't have Goddard, and now you're limited on the offensive, on the wide receiver position, man. This is, and it's like kind of what comes first here, the chicken or the egg. Are you struggling because your quarterback's struggling? Is he struggling because he went through training camp with a bunch of guys, and now again he doesn't have those guys? I mean, I think there's a lot to kind of unwrap here, but ultimately you're looking at a situation too where this game, I don't want to say it's a must-win this early because mathematically you'll still be alive no matter what because the division's so bad, but you're 0-3-1. I mean, mentally, and you know me, I'm not an irrational guy when it comes – I don't care who you lose to, but 0-3-1, right. There is nothing that shows you this can turn around if you lose again because your quarterback plays poor.
Yeah, it's funny. Adam and I had Joe Banner on our recent Inside the Birds TV on our YouTube channel, and we went back and talked about the 2003 season when the team started off 0-2, then they won 2 straight games, but then they lost again, and they were 2-3 after 5 games. And that's the 2003 team that had already been to the NFC Championship game twice, and the expectations were so high. He was talking about how good of a job Andy Reid did in holding the team together, but he also was saying, look at the coaches that they had on that staff. I mean, 2003, you got Johnson, you got Jim Harbaugh, you got Spagnuolo, you got Shermer, you have Childress. I mean, all these guys who went on to have some success in other places as head coaches or coordinators. And, you look at this Eagles coaching staff, and Doug's already shown that the team will fight for him. But can you look at this coaching staff and see like 6 or 7 potential head coaches and coordinators in the future somewhere? I mean, most of these guys are actually guys who have been somewhere else and came here, like Emmanuel, who was once a defensive coordinator, and now he's here as the cornerbacks coach, or Matt Burke, who was a defensive coordinator. Now he's the D-line coach. It's almost the opposite. You got guys who are, on the downside instead of the upside, and you just wonder, with all that newness in the coaching staff, if there's enough cohesion there among all these guys to really be able to hold it together and keep the players' spirits up. It's not, you can't, just because they did it in 2003, doesn't mean they're going to be doing it in 2020.
Do you think that they can use Jalen Hurts more based off of limitations? I know he had the fumble last game, but maybe that scared them to implement him more into the game plan. I'm just thinking, you are so limited. Would it hurt to try something new and have Jalen Hurts out there more than he has been?
Well, I mean, I think people would like that. I'm sure the team would love to see that, where you're starting to use – you got to build him up. It's only been 3 games. They didn't use him in the first one. There was 3 snaps the first game, a little bit more usage against the Bengals as far as running with the ball. They're probably building toward that. But I do see a challenge that the coaches face, Hunter, in trying to spend most of their practice rebuilding Carson Wentz and getting him right, because that's the guy right now that, if they're going to turn it around, is going to be the one that leads the turnaround. And to do some of the things with Jalen Hurts that you're suggesting takes some time in practice, and you got to rep it, and you got to make sure everybody's in the timing on these kind of misdirections and option plays has to be perfect. So you're spending time doing that. That means you're taking time away from Carson Wentz at a time in which he probably needs more coaching and more reps, not less.
All right, Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds podcast. And don't forget, they got the live pregame show on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Follow Geoff at Geoff Mosher for more to find out on that show. But before we, kind of get out of here, let's look at some of them. I would imagine that the tight end is a big problem. The jet sweep stuff is a big problem. But where is something that you like that maybe Doug Pederson can go after?
Well, I like how Miles Sanders has been playing. And if there was any doubt about what we've said on Inside the Birds for, 7 or 8 months now about this is not going to be a running back committee, it's going to be the Miles Sanders show. I think that's been proven pretty much through the first few weeks of the season. If you go back to last year in December, Miles was probably as big as a pass target as he was as a rushing weapon. We all remember the big rollout was against Washington, right, where he hits Miles in the back of the end zone on his knees for a touchdown there. I do think Miles Sanders showed you last week. I mean, he can run routes now. He can beat guys with double moves, and if Carson just hits him in stride, he can be even more of a weapon. So I believe that with the defensive line hurting right now for the 49ers, they're without Bosa. They're without Solomon Thomas. They traded DeForest Buckner in the offseason. So they're not nearly as potent as they were last year. You got to be able to get them going one way and Miles Sanders going the other way, get him in some open spaces and use that as a matchup issue. And the same thing with Boston Scott. I think they can use him more like a Darren Sproles type of quick hitter, pass receiver out of the backfield, and just get at this Niners defense, because it's the personnel just isn't the same right now with what they're missing in the secondary and what they're missing on the D line. So Carson shouldn't be getting roughed up and hit around a whole lot. Those two guys, can help him.
When it comes to Miles Sanders, is it concerning that after the game you're hearing him and Doug Pederson talk about being fatigued and, maybe not being in the best condition? Now, we understand that early in training camp and all of that, he wasn't able to be out there and running, so it makes sense. But, with the load that we anticipate him getting, do you think that it's concerning that we keep hearing the word fatigued?
Well, I was more concerned hearing it about Jason Peters than I was, Miles Sanders, because like you said, Miles missed so much time, might not have all of his legs underneath him. I know Jason Peters also missed a little bit of time, but he didn't miss week one. He's been out there in game condition, playing all the reps, falls down, looks like he's really hurt. And then Doug says, no, he was just a little fatigued. He got humid. Wasn't that humid. So that concerned me a little bit. The weird thing is he said fatigue with Miles, but then as we learned later in the week, there was also a glute thing going on, which he's on the injury report for, having a glute injury. So, but look, when he's been out there, he's been very effective. And now we're a week later, and there can't be excuses. So, I mean, they need Miles Sanders to play, contribute from start to finish.
When you look at this, Jeff, do you look at this game as insurmountable or winnable?
I think it is winnable. I don't see it as insurmountable because, like I said, the Eagles are weak at wide receiver. Well, the Niners are weak at cornerback. The Niners, the Eagles have struggled when Carson's gotten hit this year. I don't know that the Niners are as lethal on the D-line as they were in the past. And Nick Mullins, I know he's done well. They came off games against the Giants and the Jets. I mean, I don't know that the Niners are going to just breeze through the rest of their schedule until they start getting some healthy guys back. I can't look at what they did against the Giants and say that they are and Jets and say they're a juggernaut. I think that they were opportunistic and they're a good team, but I don't think that they're unbeatable right now. They have a lot of guys who are hurting or who are out. So this is a winnable game for the Eagles. Unfortunately, they have a lot of guys who are hurting and out as well. I think that the Niners are going to win. I'd be surprised if it was a blowout, though. I think this game is going to be close, which means it will be winnable. It's just whether or not the Eagles make those plays they need to make.
Well, we'll see who's available to make those plays. We told you Deshaun Jackson is out, and also Alshon Jeffrey will not play. It looks like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, although I don't think anybody cares about that all that much, is also doubtful. Who will be available to make a play for Carson? Can Carson turn some things around here? We got that to find out Sunday night right here on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Jeff, again, remind everybody about the Inside the Birds podcast and the pregame show.
Yeah, podcast. It's out right now. We preview the game Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 a.m. It drops. And Sunday, 5 p.m. We always start 3 hours before kickoff, 5 p.m. at the Goose Island Brew House. You can come out and watch it because they have the show on the big screen and the sound and everything. 2 hours of me, Adam Kaplan, Trey Thomas, Greg Cosell. And I promise you this, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but you watch any other pregame show, you won't find the better analysis than ours. And that's just because, having Trey and Greg and Adam are fantastic in breakdown. No fluff, just football. And I think that's what a pregame show should be.
He's Geoff Mosher, Inside the Birds podcast. It's an excellent listen. Make sure you get it when it drops. And, of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. The Inside the Birds guys. Andrew's back on Monday and Tuesday. Jeff is back on Wednesday, as the Eagles, by the way, they'll play the Steelers, coming off of bye now. So the schedule does not help them out there as well. Jeff, take care, man.
All right, fellas. Have a good weekend.